Good evening, Dolphins fans. Welcome to another episode of On the Fin Side here with Kat and Paul. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. I'm Brian Cat NFL. On Twitter, Paul is fanatic_pick. You know, this is a show I can confidently say I never thought we'd actually be doing. Paul and I don't like to do shows based on rumors and things that are reported by ESPN. We want to have clear and concise, content-driven, what we see on the field from week to week. But we realized really today this is something that, based on what the entire Dolphins community is talking about, we really can't ignore anymore. We could be laughing about this in a few days. But as it stands right now, really the talk here, and we don't have breaking news on this or anything like that, but yesterday, Chris Mortensen tweeted out that Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson might be looking to get out of Houston. And he specifically labeled the Dolphins as a team that it would make a lot of sense for. And on paper, it makes the most sense. So this is his entire tweet right here. It's a little bit long, so stick with me. Sources say Deshaun Watson could play hardball with the Texans about a trade. His new $156 million contract includes a no-trade clause, but informed speculation, which is kind of a new word, from a source that he would consider Watson would consider the Miami Dolphins, in which Tua and additional compensation goes to Houston. Reports about Watson's unhappiness with the team are accurate, says Mortensen, and sources close to the quarterback say he's still very angry about the team's insensitivity to social justice, including hiring practices, after the team failed to interview Chiefs offensive coordinator Eric Bieniemy. Mort later walked some of that back and said that Watson's unhappiness with the Texans is not strongly connected to social justice issues in particular, but they are important to him. It has more to do with the overall unhappiness as the franchise. Big surprise there. So Adam Schefter also said afterward, piggybacked on that, said that he is, quote, furious over the GM search and could withhold services in 2021. He said that Watson's anger level last year after trading DeAndre Hopkins was a 2. Now it's a 10. And that's when a lot of these rumors started coming up a lot more, and a lot of these reports started coming out. So the big question a lot of people have is, how did this happen? Like, on the head coaching, on the GM front, to make it as easy as possible, Deshaun Watson wanted Eric Bieniemy as the coach, or really strongly recommended him. The Texans went on to be the only team with a coaching vacancy not to interview Eric Bieniemy. So obviously felt disrespected. And also, as on the GM front, the Texans hired a searching firm for their GMs. The name of the searching firm was Korn Ferry. They recommended 5 GM candidates. 2 of them were Omar Khan, the VP of admin for the Steelers, and Louis Riddick from ESPN, 2 that Watson supposedly really liked. Out of those 5 that were recommended by the coaching firm, they picked Nick Caserio, who is a former New England Patriots guy, and a lot of people in the Texans organization think that this guy, Easterby, his first name's eluding me at this point, and he were buddies from back then in New England. So he is fuming right now. He's on vacation. Deshaun Watson's on vacation. Very possibly comes back and smooths it all out. But Paul, what do you make of this right now? I mean, taking a look at what we're seeing here, Deshaun Watson's on vacation, but do you think this is ESPN being ESPN, or does this have some legs?
This is the same ESPN that we heard from last week that Chan Gailey was fired from a Twitter account that was a spoof Adam Schefter called Tua Needs Help. I think it might have a little bit of legs. I think Deshaun probably is frustrated. I think anybody who's anybody can see that the Texans organization right now is a dumpster fire. They are missing a ton of draft picks. They are negative cap space unless something crazy happens with the projected cap, which probably won't happen given the COVID season. They got rid of some of their core players. They've got another core player that's a free agent who's also suspended for PEDs. JJ Watt's back is falling apart. You can just run down this list. And now they're just completely disregarding Korn Ferry, which is one of the more respected firms out there for finding stuff. And really, they're a dumpster fire. And I don't make anything of it yet. Obviously, right now, Deshaun Watson is better than Tua. We don't know if Tua will ever reach Deshaun Watson-like levels. That is absolutely a fact. For me as well, though, it would have to be the right deal. And I see a lot of people projecting deals. Who says yes? Who says no? One of the deals out there, and I know we're going to talk briefly about it at the end of the show, so I won't dive too deeply, that I see a lot is throwing Xavier Howard, the number 3, the number 18, Tua, a bag of chips, and one of those Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches over to the Texans. Really all but the last two. And it doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't. Xavier Howard, one of the reasons that the Texans may possibly agree to trade Deshaun Watson, which is going to be a tough go, it's a tough road to see happen, is going to be cap relief. And
Yeah.
you don't take on a massive corner contract like Xavier's. Well, he's also got one of the best agents in the game at negotiating a raise, and he's seeking a pay raise by all reports. So you don't take that on. So anything throwing Xavier Howard in, I'm ignoring, right? Any of those speculative scenarios, I don't care if it comes from Steve Ross himself. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
It's not going to be with Xavier Howard, because the whole reason that you're doing it is to unload some of this cap. They've been in bad contracts for so very, very long with so many players. Their personnel decisions they've made have been so unbelievably bad. Number one, you traded David Johnson, or you got David Johnson for DeAndre Hopkins. Then you traded a second-round pick for Brandon Cooks, and granted, Cooks had a pretty good year with them. And you also, so basically, you took the money you would have given Hopkins and you gave it to David Johnson, Randall Cobb, and Brandon Cooks. Good luck making sense out of that one. You didn't even come ahead more than a second-round draft pick that you used on Ross Blacklock, a developmental defensive tackle. So it's incredible. And also, as far as the Laramie Tunsil trade, they have spent 3 first-rounders and 2 second-rounders on Tunsil, Max Sharping, and Titus. We could make a whole show about the Texans' terrible personnel decisions.
We could. And one thing I will say that they did well is a lot of those guys you listed, if you take a look at their cap hit if released, guys like Brandon Cooks, guys like, et cetera, they actually have 0 cap hit if released in 2021 for most of them, or very negligible. So at least they did that okay-ish. So they've got the room that they can clear to keep Deshaun Watson. My biggest thing right now is I do think, yes, Tua had less of a year than some of us expected, right? But I do see him as an ascending player. I do see him as a smart player. And my biggest question mark with Tua that I needed to see from him this year was that he got through the season healthy. He did. And I will always take a group of great players over an individual great player. And Miami needs to add weapons right now. And so there would be some very easy, logical tap-out points for me with getting Deshaun Watson. And one of the things that I would need to look at, too, is if you're going to be able to re-sign Jerome Baker next year, if you're going to be able to either sign or draft somebody for that linebacking core, are you going to be able to get that running back that's going to be durable to go in that backfield rotation? Are you going to be able to get a wide receiver or two? Are you going to be able to go out and get an Allen Robinson or a Marvin Jones or whichever wide receiver in free agency you're eyeballing? And I don't know that you are without sacrificing a lot of other positions. I'll take a group of very talented players. Anybody that's done a mock draft so far can tell you, you can build one hell of a team with the draft picks that Miami has right now around Tua and still put a little bit on the defensive side of the ball to retain your talent and youth on that side. And that's where, unless it is a dream deal that Deshaun Watson forces due to his no trade clause, I'm only in that scenario.
So a couple of things there is
Yeah.
number one, the most important thing that message I want to get across here is just because I love Deshaun Watson doesn't mean I don't think Tua is the answer. Either Watson's going to be available in trade or he's not. One of the two. We might find out in a few days he's not. So that's one thing. Where you and I philosophically disagree, and that's okay. It's not right or wrong. I'm not a believer in building a well-rounded 53-man roster. Okay, yeah. I want stars, and when you talk about stars, Deshaun Watson is one of the best quarterbacks in the game, and he's 25 years old. There are one of 3 players in the NFL I'd be willing to have this conversation about: Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, or Deshaun Watson. That's it. Nobody else that I'd be willing to have this conversation about. And in terms of comparing Tua to Deshaun Watson, if we take Tua's 9 games here in 2020 as a rookie, and we project them over 16 games, those numbers look like this: just over 3,200 yards, 20 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, and rushing 194 yards and 5 touchdowns. Those are good numbers for a rookie in Tua's, with what Tua did. Deshaun Watson, you take 50 games that he's had over the last 3 years, including playoffs. We're talking almost 4,400 yards passing, 29 touchdowns on average a year, almost 500 yards rushing, and another 6 on the ground. Those are incredible numbers. Number 1 in passing yards, number 2 in quarterback rating. There's no precedence for somebody like this coming on the market if it happens.
Yeah, and I don't know that it's true, that it is happening. We've already covered that a little bit. And one thing for me is I do think Deshaun's numbers are a little inflated, which I'm not taking away from his talent in any way, shape, or form. But this is a team that hasn't played with a lead very often. And they've played from woefully behind in a lot of games and been playing catch up and been playing for the shootout. And you're going to throw up look at Big Ben. You look at half his stat line from yesterday, and you think he had one hell of a game. But end of the day, he had a hell of a mess, and they were playing from down 30 points. And he was having to air the ball out like crazy. So, yeah, he threw up 500 yards in a catastrophic performance and loss. And that's not saying that about Deshaun Watson. I'm not taking it to that extreme. But it's just like when the Raiders had the number 1 passing defense a few years back because other teams were blowing them out and running the clock in the second quarter.
Yeah, that's true for this past year, without question.
Yeah.
But the 2 years before that, the Texans were leading in a lot of games.
Oh, yeah.
And because of that, your point still stands that Deshaun Watson threw for 4,800 yards this year. A lot of that, his jump from 4,200 yards to 4,800, I think can be explained with what you just said there. But he still threw for 4,200 yards on a playoff team.
Oh, yeah.
With 20-something touchdowns and 27 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. We're still talking about here really one of the stars of the game. So the way I look at it too is, I think a lot of long-term sustainability that people talk about is some people, and this is the interesting conversation, is a lot of people prefer your route. A lot of draft picks, cap management, having a quality depth roster, competition. And a lot of people prefer my route where you get stars and don't overthink this. And for me, I think that Brian Flores is a top 5 head coach. I think Deshaun Watson's a top 5 quarterback. From that point, the rest of your team has to be really bad for you not to be a playoff contender and a possible Super Bowl contender year in and year out. So it's an interesting debate there.
And one thing I want to add to that is if Chris Grier is interested, you have to do a couple of things here. you cannot show that interest because if the deal falls through, Tua handled the Fitzpatrick thing well. That's kind of undermining your starting quarterback, even if it's for Deshaun Watson, Patrick Mahomes, whoever, right? You have to play it cool. The other thing is, if Deshaun Watson, who completely controls whether or not he can be traded, is laser focused, locked in on Miami, and refusing to play for the Texans next year, that is your ideal scenario. If you lose the game of chicken, guess what? You still got two and you backed him 100%. You didn't do anything. But if the Texans suddenly panic and they've got a quarterback that doesn't want to play for them, refuses to play for them, and will only play for the Dolphins, and you have to take whatever you can get, that is the scenario where I think they'd come out with a trade that I'm okay with, and you can still build around Deshaun Watson. You're going to need those rookies to mitigate the impact on your salary cap that deal is going to have.
Right. And that's where it benefits the Dolphins and why it's been smart for Chris Greer to say that we're going to listen to all trade offers for any player.
Mm-hmm.
Because now in this position, the Texans may have to come to you. Because Deshaun Watson, the most important thing in this is that he has a no trade clause. So people say, oh, well, you've got 20 or 25 teams that line up for Deshaun Watson. No, you don't. Because those teams don't have the draft capital. They don't have Tua and a number 3 pick that they're able to possibly offer. They don't have either of those resources. The Dolphins are also able to pay Tua. The Dolphins also have a 10-6 roster. So they're the only team that makes sense. Maybe one or two other, maybe the 49ers or the Bears could make it work, but I highly, highly doubt that too. So,
but he's going to want to go there.
Hey, Watson's from Chicago, I believe he is. So I could, but
I'm from Connecticut. If I was in the Bigs, I wouldn't really want to play for the Patriots.
But the big thing too is that if this does get more serious, and the only reason I'm having the show is because I think it could get more serious, because I think Deshaun Watson, vacation or no vacation, he has he's not looking for a new contract. He's not looking for this or that. I mean, they already hired the general manager. They've already not interviewed Bieniemy. If he weren't this pissed off, I think he would have come out and squashed this already. But he hasn't. He's not talking to anybody.
Yeah. And, it's Josina Anderson had a report that he's on vacation and hasn't asked anybody for a trade, hasn't demanded a trade, hasn't said anything. So I don't know what Mort's doing here. It could go either way. I mean, they've both had some bad reporting in the past. One thing to keep an eye on, though, too, because I mentioned that massive contract. Deshaun Watson had a palatable contract this past year. That contract balloons big time to a $40+ million cap hit, which can go bigger with incentives, and a $42.5 million cap hit, which can go bigger with incentives. That is 2 years that you have to be very deft at planning around if you are building a Super Bowl contending roster, and realize that some of these rookie studs that are going to be in that year 4 and up for a new deal, in that year 5 and up for a new deal. So you've got to take all of those things into account and look your roster up and down, especially if you're having to give up a dearth of draft picks. I will tell you right now, I would not give up more than 2 first-round draft picks for any player in the NFL. Period.
Got it. I would.
And people can go back and say, "Oh, well, we might draft Deion Jordan again. We might draft, Yatil Green again." You can't punish this regime for what previous regimes did. That's like getting pissed at your spouse for something that your ex in high school did. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I would give up Tua. I'd give up 3rd overall pick, and I'd give up 18. And I'm not even sure I'd stop there. That's the difference between you and me on that. I'm not saying you're wrong on that, because there are some people on your side of the fence. There are some people on mine. We don't know if Watson is even going to be traded. I think a lot needs to happen for that to be the case, but I think the Dolphins would be number 1 on that list if he were to waive that trade clause. But but I think the Dolphins are in a great position.
Yeah.
At least in my mind, either they can pull the trigger on Watson if he's available, which I'd say there's a less than 50% chance he is, or you can take all that money and the draft picks and take advantage of Tua's rookie contract and continue to build around him. And if Tua is not the answer, I think he could be, then you can get a new quarterback in a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of options, and they all benefit the Dolphins here.
They do, and the great news here is we've got multiple sides to this. We've got whatever we've got, and none of them aren't factual except for this garbage stuff I've seen from Armando today, which is fine. But it's the good thing is there are positive scenarios on both sides. Neither side is a wrong scenario or path. You get Deshaun Watson, you've got a franchise quarterback. You keep Tua and build around him. You probably have a franchise quarterback in Tua. Probably more likely than not. But you can also you have the capability right now to add the resources to go out and get a franchise quarterback if Tua flubs out of the league. You've got a lot of options, a lot of good options. You have to hit on either one of them. You know, it's could Tua not become a franchise quarterback potentially? Could Deshaun Watson, slip on a shell on a beach in Barbados or wherever the hell he is, and not be able to walk right again? Yeah, you can't predict the future with that, but there's a lot of good options here. That's what I'm getting at, I guess.
Yeah, there are a lot of good options. I mean, and the difference too with Deshaun Watson. I mean, we talk about how drafting Penny Sewell third overall, and I want to have a great offensive line around Tua because I think he needs to be able to step into his throws to get velocity. When he does that, arm strength to me isn't a problem with him. Deshaun Watson, on the other hand, Deshaun Watson's in 2018 when the Texans won 11 games and made the playoffs, and Watson had 4,000 yards passing, 20 something touchdowns. He had Julian Davenport as his left tackle and Kendall Lamb, the Browns' backup tackle, as his right tackle. So you don't necessarily have to go out and get an offensive line or get a lot more receivers. Watson has shown the ability to put up great numbers and win football games without a great supporting cast. That's the other side of the equation too. So yeah, I think it all benefits the Dolphins here if this more comes into fruition here. So we'll see what happens. Look, I really think maybe in a couple of days, Watson's gonna be like, all right, I'm back from vacation. Yeah, all that stuff's garbage. But I felt like we needed to have a show on this and start talking about this a little bit just to, throw another stick of dynamite into the fire, if nothing else.
I do believe, Kat, that this is probably not the last time we'll talk about this one. I have a funny feeling this is. I mean, you can't officially make a move, I think, until the first week of March, and until they do or until they don't, it's going to come up periodically between now and then, no matter who definitively says what.
Yeah, and look, a lot of people are saying, "Hey, I'm so sick of Dolphins Twitter arguing back and forth." Not me. I'm here for the show. So when I log on to Twitter, I want to see shit going down. Okay. I want to see people arguing with one another. I want to see back and forth debate. I'm sorry. I mean, I might be a little bit cynical. I love all these Dolphins fans, but it is football too. I mean, come on. We're not talking about real life stuff.
Real quick on that, couple quick topics. Sounds like Flores and company are going to coach the Senior Bowl. What do you think? I love it.
But I think it gives you a little bit of an advantage, especially with all those draft picks. Yeah, so I mean, getting up close view, and Brian Flores has very good judgment as far as just the character and the football IQ of players. It gives them another chance to see that. So I'm really pumped about that.
Yeah, me too. And then, not so great news potentially. A great player just got a very great agent, which doesn't always spell sunshine and roses for the Dolphins. In Xavier Howard and David Cantor, and it sounds like X is seeking a raise. One of the reasons he reportedly hired Cantor was the fact that when he almost hired him a few years ago, Cantor told him it was a bad idea to seek his new deal at the time he did, and that it wouldn't age well. And apparently, that brought David Cantor back into X's forefront. What do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's good. And Xavier Howard, defensive player of the year candidate, and now he's probably going to be the fifth or sixth highest paid cornerback. I really think if you're the sixth highest paid cornerback instead of the first, you should keep in mind too the last 2 years you've been hurt for most of the year. But that's not really how the NFL works either. It was a hard negotiation with Olivier Vernon, Paul Soliai, Derek Shelby, a lot of players that Cantor represented. So it's not good news on that front. But Paul, you also said give Xavier Howard a few more $1 million. It looks like you might get your wish on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's looking at the contracts. X is right around 15 million a year. The highest paid corner in the NFL, which I believe is Ramsey, is at 20 million a year. I have zero qualm, and maybe, and I was thinking about this while you were talking here. Maybe the Dolphins could creatively get X to accept a deal that bets on himself, or an escalator that bets on himself. Throw an incentive-based contract in there. If you play X amount of snaps, you get a $6 million bonus at the end of the season. That would make him the highest paid corner in the NFL if he plays more than, I don't know, 70% of snaps for the team, or, and it puts him in that position where, so long as you're not, missing a tremendous amount of time, and it could be team friendly too. So you've either got the highest paid corner, or you're rolling some cap money into the following year.
Yeah, I think that's good for the. That'd be a great idea. I think typically when a player is 28, 29 years old, they're looking to get as much money as they can before the time runs out, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen here. So we'll see. I mean, David Cantor was an on the fence side regular here a few years ago, and he made it very clear that he wasn't going to give the Dolphins what they wanted, pretty much. Well, not in his exact words. But.
Well, he grew up a Dolphins fan. He really did. Like, he grew up a stone's throw from the stadium, and he wants the players to stay there, but he does his job and acts in the players' best interest and tries to get them everything he can. But at the end of the day, he still works for Xavier Howard. And if the Dolphins call him up and say, look, Jalen Ramsey's highest paid corner in the NFL at $20 million a year, you're making $15 million a year, you are absolutely right as defensive player of the year. We will creatively either throw you $5 million a year, and I wouldn't blink twice at X being a $20 million a year corner. But you can't replace the 10 interceptions this year, the forced fumbles, and you name it. I mean, the guy creates opportunities for the offense. And that is absolutely worth the $5 million a year you might spend on a different player to come in and play around.
Yes, the team needs to be built around Byron Jones, Xavier Howard, for sure. Because if you don't have those two cornerbacks, the Dolphins don't win 10 games. I don't think they win 8. I don't think they win 6 if you take both of them out of the lineup. I mean, and I love that what they did at the defensive back spot. Keep adding to defensive back. As we keep on going with that. Oh, and by the way, I'm actually looking in the chat, and some dude named Leighton here said he likes my sweatshirt. So I got this is one of my faves right here. I got it's actually a hockey jersey with the Dolphins logo on it. I don't even remember where I got it from, but
dude, I was eyeballing one like it, and Rachel, if you are listening right now, I think you hate that sweatshirt too. I'm just, going out on a limb here.
Yeah,
Rachel, it looks terrible on him.
Paul's gonna have my whole wardrobe one day on that, especially my hats. I've got like 25 hats now, so you might expect a few of those in the mail here. So, Paul, that's really going to do it here for what we have. Anything else jump out?
Wait, do you have this one first? Do you have this one?
What is that?
The AFC East Division champion,
2008.
Yep.
No. I see. I've thrown out all the old. I didn't like the old logo, so I don't think I have anything with the old logo whatsoever. So.
Ooh, that was Cat, CAT, Cat that said that, not Paul.
No. Excuse me. I don't like the cartoon logo from '97 to 2012. That's the one I don't like. Every other logo I love. But if I buy anything, it has to have the new Dolphins logo or the one from 1996 and before that.
I actually just realized every time you buy a few things, they end up having to change the logo. I think your jersey luck extends to the logo as well. It's like, ah, crap, we got to change this now. It's dead.
That's possible. And I've got most of my stuff is new Dolphins logo. So if they change back to the retro style, which a lot of people want to do, I don't. I'm not in for that. So that's going to do it here for our breakdown of the rumors surrounding Deshaun Watson. Here, we're still going to keep doing our draft coverage, and Saturday mornings you can expect us, and we're going to pepper some other shows in as well. I'm Brian Cat NFL. Paul is fanatic_pick on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio. Be sure to subscribe and tell your Dolphins friends about it too. And if it's not on the right side and it's not on the left side, it is on the fin side.